Thank you. I forgot to tell you that I was the Army push-up champ too.
Oh! And he can peel a mean potato. Is what I can tell.
My first day of basic training, I peeled over 100 pounds of potatoes. So whenever I hear like an introduction like that, I find myself sometimes like looking around going, who are they talking about? Because that dude sounds pretty cool right now. And I go, oh, wait a minute, that's me. You know, like, holy cow. But to be honest with you, I'm just a teacher. That's all I am. I'm just a teacher, just like all of you guys. However, I do recall one time I was in Los Angeles, and there was a big convention there, an AFT convention there, and I was getting on the elevator, and somebody said, hey, are you one of the people that work here? Like, are you running like one of the sessions, or can you tell me where something is? And I said, oh, I'm just a teacher. No, I'm not one of those people. I'm just a teacher. And she said, don't you ever say you're just a teacher. And I was like, all right. I'm like, that's cool. That makes sense, right? Yeah, so I won't ever say I'm just a teacher. You know, I'm just the guy that taught regular education and special education at the high school level for a bunch of years. I'm just the guy that taught regular education and special education at the middle school level for a bunch of years. I'm just the guy that also did it in elementary school. Right? I'm just the guy that coached multiple athletic teams. I'm just the guy that got onto, we got elected as a union officer for my school. And as I go through it, and there's a whole bunch of other I'm just the guy that did this, just the guy that did that, and just the guy that did this. And in the end, I'm just like everybody else. I'm just like everybody else, and everybody else is just like me. You know what I'm saying? All it is just taking an active role and just trying to make the world a little bit better of a place. And we have that opportunity every single day when we're working with our teachers and we're working with our second adults in the room, you know, whether they're the paraprofessionals, you know, whether they are let's say, I don't know, they could be a special education teacher in there, they could be an intern, they could be a student teacher, and then absolutely you got the students. So we have a lot of opportunities because we spend our days with a lot of people. So we have a lot of opportunities to just kind of make that difference, make the world a better place. You know, recently I was in a PPT, and the PPT director over there said, yeah, it was before the parents showed up. They said something like they saw me on TV the night before or something like that. And she's like, I love this guy. He's a real alpha dog who's like nice. You know, not pushy, you know, nice. So let's all just be nice, and let's just all try to help. And some really good things can happen. So last year when I was here, I talked a lot about what a teacher can do, you know, to become more successful with difficult students. And then over the year, I was thinking about it a lot, and I got a lot of people who said they learned a lot, they really loved it, and I should come back and do another one. And I work with Dan Flores over at New Britain High School, and he's a paraprofessional over there, and we've been trading conversations a lot over the last year. And I said, do you know what I missed the last year out on? I missed on talking to all of the adults in the room. Because I spoke from the lens of just, let's say, like a teacher. And I didn't speak from the lens of, how about that time I spent as a special education teacher as the second teacher in the classroom, which is what I'm doing right now. And you got to deal with that territorial issues that the regular ed mainstream teachers having. You know what I'm saying? I felt I didn't really hit on what can paras do. I remember at the end, somebody asked me last year, well, what can a para do? And I was like, God, that's a good question. I mean, in a way, you're limited. Your hands are tied a little bit. What can you do? And I came up with an answer I thought that was decent at the time. You know, when it was just kind of like dropped in my lap. I came up with a little answer about creating a little circle around you that's good, and then trying to broaden that. So I was thinking about it this year, and I'm like, I got to have a better answer this year for the paraprofessionals. And yes, I've never been a paraprofessional, but I have been the second teacher in the class. I've been on both sides of the aisle. So yes, I want to share with you guys the stuff that teachers can do, but I want to share what teachers can do when they have a second adult in the room, a third adult in the room, and what if you're on that side of the aisle, which I've been on both sides of the aisle constantly. I've been on both sides of the aisle. So what if you're on the other side of the aisle and you are that second teacher, that third adult, or whoever? In there, what can you do to create that synergy, right? Create that synergy we talked about. Absolutely. So definitely want to throw in some more about paraprofessionals. And speaking of that, I believe that we have like the paraprofessional of the year in the room. I'd like to do a little shout out to Karen Millie, paraprofessional of the year. Everybody give it up.
Sorry, you had to.
Thank you. Thank you for all your service and everything you do for the kids, for the teachers, for everybody. I mean, indirectly for the parents. You're doing a lot of good stuff for the parents. Okay, so let's move on here to understanding today's youth. Let me ask you a question. Can some of you please describe today's youth? And if you don't mind, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Can you kind of like just tell me like, your name, position, are you a teacher or you're a para, regular teacher, special ed teacher? Okay.
I would say from middle school to high school, not really talking about elementary school. My experience.
So you're a teacher?
I am a para-educator.
Para-educator, yeah.
With a college degree.
Yeah, a lot of you guys have college degrees.
I know, so
Absolutely.
this is my second career, but anyway.
Okay, so you're a
Para-educator at a middle school,
At a middle school.
in New Britain.
in New Britain. What are they saying? What are you hearing people say about today's kids?
I feel like they all, no matter what type of background they have, whether they are, poor, whether they have money, no matter what type, they all have a sense of entitlement. All of them. Every single one.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Appreciate it. And somebody else? Okay,
I teach math at the high school level.
okay. You teach math at high school level? Okay.
I'm a classroom teacher.
Classroom teacher, yeah.
And my sense of their life is that they're bombarded. They do have a sense of entitlement, but I feel like part of that is a response to all the things they're supposed to have. You should be like the Kardashians. You should have a perfect body, you should have perfect clothes, you should have perfect style, you should make fun of everyone who doesn't. I feel like there's so many messages out there.
It's sad. It's very sad. I'm actually writing a book on this workshop, and I have a manuscript that's probably about 90% done, and I have a little section of reality TV. I mean, what is reality TV doing? Those reality stars that are famous and rich for nothing? What are they doing to our youth? They've accomplished nothing. And yet our kids are looking up to them because they're famous and they got money and all that stuff. And what are they doing? You know what I'm saying? What are they doing? So yeah, I'm with you. I feel your pain. All right, somebody else? Right there.
Dan Flores, we're in high school. One of the constant complaints I hear, not from teachers, but from our rural community, is saying that our rural youth today is not committed, that they're lazy. And part of it has to do with culture, but a big part of it has to do with their executive functions too, prioritizing. What is more, what takes priority? Is it my academics or is it my social life? And to be honest, like if we were to look at the spectrum of today's youth, weren't we all like that when we were all younger? So when we were all just up in the air and without care, and we can see this in different eras. We look in the 90s, 80s, or 70s.
Absolutely. Good. Thank you. Thank you. That's very good. And executive function is becoming more and more popular catchphrase. I think you want to say
Yes,
something.
I'm Tom Wilkes. I'm a trade teacher at East Goodwin. And the big problem I have is that kids are addicted to social media and electronics. And they're so just distracted from that. And I can just tabulate how much time I spend trying to wean them off this stuff. And how many times I have to tell them to put the stuff away. And how much time I lose in the classroom just trying to enforce the rules of a kid popping on a cell phone, or they got to answer a Facebook, or mommy's texting me. I get that all the time, So.
It's like your mommy should know better. All right, I'm always telling my students that.
We know it's not mommy, but I spend too much time doing that stuff.
Yeah, I think we're all spending too much time doing that stuff. And I just mentioned that to a class today, which I'm the second teacher in that class. I'm the special ed teacher in that class. And I said, you know what? I said to the other teacher, which we'll talk about a little bit later, about creating this volume back and forth. But I said to the other teacher, I said, hey, Miss Rich, I said, you know what? Today's children, this culture, this society, this generation, I go, they've been blessed and cursed. And they're all like, turning like, what do you mean? Like that, like what's he talking about? And I'm like, they've got this this social media thing at their fingertips. I'm like, they got way more information than me and you had. I said, they can climb way faster, go way faster, and have all this information. I said, they're gonna pass us out, no problem. And then all the students are like, oh, I'm gonna pass you out the teachers, right? And then I said, but the other side of that is, I go, they're distracted way beyond whatever we were. And I said, so it's a blessing and curse. And I'm like, and these students have got to figure out how to manage that blessing and curse. Thank you.
Michelle Posada, I'm a para at Westview Elementary School in Middletown. But tying into what he said, I was reading an article this morning actually about one of the creators of Facebook saying how they knew social media was like gonna impact people's brains and the brain development, and they kind of went about it anyways, but it is programming your brain differently, and it is messing with like the people's connections and being able to interact because you're so wired to the social system of social media. So I thought that was really interesting.
I mean, we didn't have this struggle a generation ago. We didn't have this struggle. They're always like distracted, always on their phone, and I laugh when they're like, "Mom, it's my mommy." I'm like, I couldn't picture telling my teacher it was my mommy. You know what I'm saying? None of you guys can too. So anyways, going back to what Dan said, I want to jump on that. He actually stole my thunder a little teeny bit. I was going to jump in there. I was going to say, some of the things I just heard exactly what I was hoping to hear. And some of the things that I didn't hear yet, but I'm sure if I dug a little deeper, I would hear it. They're lazy, right? They're entitled, right? They don't care. Right? Oh my gosh, these are the kids that are going to take care of us. Right? And if we could go on and on, couldn't we? And I think Dan hit the nail on the head, because that's exactly what I was going to say too, is didn't they kind of say some of those things about us? Right? They kind of like shook their head, looked at us, and said, oh, that kid never thinks about tomorrow, right? They kind of said those things. Might not be the exact same things, but it's pretty similar. They said a lot of similar things. I remember when I first became a teacher, and I used to go back to East Harvard High for like social events, whatever they may be, and some of my old teachers were there, and they were like, who would have thought? Dan Blanchard, a teacher. Wow, I didn't see that coming. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, wow, what is that supposed to mean? You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, they did. They did say those things about us. They did. Maybe it sounded a little different. You know what I'm saying? And maybe what we're saying today is sounding a little bit different. Maybe it's in disguise, but it's maybe like covered up and disguised just enough where we don't fully recognize it. But it's there. It's there underneath stuff. You know what I'm saying? They did say that stuff about us, right? So, did we make it? Even though they said things like that about us? I mean, we made it. Look around this room. Every single one of us sets our alarm clock, and when that alarm clock goes off, we get up. We get up and we go to work. We get dressed, we go to work every day. And our teachers, our coaches, the adults in our neighborhood, they probably shook their head at us a few times going, kid's never gonna make it. Kid's never gonna make it. And it probably did. In fact, I know it did. I know what happened to us, but yeah, we made it. So if we made it, it's almost like we're just repeating the cycle. Here we are, and I don't know if it's something that just happens to you as you get older, but here we are saying, oh my gosh, these kids, they're turning my hair gray. And I was looking in the mirror today, and I noticed I had a little more gray than last year at this time. But it's still, they are turning our hair gray. They are driving us crazy, and they're throwing new problems at us, or maybe it's old problems with new twist, like the social media. And we're like, are these kids gonna make it? Are they gonna be there for us when we need them to be there for us? Are they gonna be unselfish, unlazy, is that a word, unlazy? Unlazy leaders when we need them to be? Are they gonna be those people? And the answer is yes, they are. They're gonna be those people. Not all of them, but a bunch of them are gonna be those people. And if we think about it, we think about our friends that we grew up with. A bunch of them made it, but did all of them make it? No, not all of them. A bunch of my friends are just not with us anymore. They're in jail or whatever, right? Or they're living in their mother's basement at 45 years old, right? So did all my friends make it? The answer is, did all my classmates make it? No, they didn't. But a bunch made it. And out of this generation, this youth, a bunch are going to make it. And we can help that along. You know what I'm saying? And we can sit there and just complain and drive ourselves crazy and say, I don't think I can make it through the next 15 years. You know what I'm saying? That conversation we had earlier. You're like, I'll get through this year, but what about the next 15? Right? How's that going to happen? Right? But if we think like that, the next 15 gets really harder. Gets a lot harder if we think about that. But if we think that we have a spot, you know, let's say, I always say hover 10,000 feet. Hover 10,000 feet and look down. We have a spot here that could be kind of cool. Because when it's over and we look back, we're going to say, you know, we made a difference. We made a difference, and we have one of the most important jobs in the world. The only problem is the people on the outside don't know it. But we do. We have the most important job in the world. So how do we go about making this difference? Well, one of the ways is to make this difference is that we got to create a climate. We got to create what they want. And to figure out what they want, we got to figure out what do we want? If we figure out what we want, then, you know, them being little versions of us, little humans, or bigger humans or little humans, right? They probably want what we want. So, like, what do we want when we go to work every day as teachers, or parents, or educators, or whatever? What do we want when we go to work every day?
We want to be accepted, and that's the nail on everything I heard today. They just want to be accepted in whatever form we provide them. And the other statement I'd say is always be smarter than a 13-year-old. If you can do that, a lot of my colleagues, because I'm in middle school right now, and I've done the three, you know, I did elementary and high school. You're just a little smarter than them. If they're arguing with you, you know, that's what they want. They want your attention. So, not right now. Do the one-to-one afterwards. And really, most of them, they give up. They're just like,
You're right, and I'll address that. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later.
But if you
that's
get
a perfect
that want part,
Good
oh
answer.
my God, the whole thing else goes away. Because they're going to argue. I remember being in Catholic school with my transistor radio, listening, you know, and I had the same thing from the nun. You're gonna go nowhere. You're listening to that crazy baseballer.
Yeah.
You know, it happens.
It does.
I just think we have different situations. From when I first started teaching, I think right now is the best time ever. I think that this thing could be our friend or it could be our foe. Learn to use it. We use Go Guardian, so when I'm, you know, the kids are doing their stuff, I can see that he's on the NBA thing. And say, hey, Bill, really? Again? And then they'll type back, sorry, Mr. Moore, or something like that.
Can I hold that for a second? There was a time back a while ago when people pulled out this really cool looking tool, and they said, no way, it's going to ruin their minds because parts of their minds aren't going to fire up anymore. And they said, well, what do you mean? They said, writing utensils bad. We can't have writing utensils because everything is storytelling. You think about Homer around the campfire, right? And just tribals and all that stuff around campfires. Everything's storytelling, and thus you're forced to remember, right? And your brain's firing up because you're remembering, and you're spitting it out, and you're spitting it out in a very dramatic, fashionable way, right? And then all of a sudden, when you write stuff down, you don't have to remember it anymore. Then your brain's going to be ruined because it's going to go, boop, it's going to shut down because it's not using that part anymore, right? So the question is, did our brains shut down once we got writing utensils and didn't have to remember everything or memorize everything? Then our brain didn't shut down. And it's the same sort of thing with the computers. It's the same sort of thing with social media. You know, people are going to say, experts are going to say, people way smarter than me are going to say, this is going to ruin our kids. And if you look back, I used to be a history teacher, by the way. Spent 10 years as a special education, regular ed, mainstream history teacher. But and then the very next year, I went to second grade special ed self-contained. Imagine that, what a culture jump that was. But if you look back in history, it happens over and over and over and over. They're saying that, oh no, this is going to ruin the kid's brain. This is going to ruin the adult's way of thinking. It's going to ruin everybody's ability. You know, your brain's going to fire different. Certain areas that fire now are going to stop firing because you're doing it differently. I'm saying that's been going on forever. Right? Is some of it true? Maybe. I mean, today, are we as good storytellers as like Homer was? Probably not. But some of us are. Some of us are real good storytellers. So did it ruin us? Not really. And we'll find a way. We'll find a way with that. We'll find a way with the social media. We'll find a way, and things are going to be okay. In the end, someday we're going to retire. It's going to be somebody else's turn, right? And we're going to do all right. So when you said, what do we want? We want to be accepted. So if we want to be accepted, it's a very good chance the kids, they're just smaller humans, right? Younger, smaller humans, they want to be accepted. So what else do we want when we go to work?
You wanna feel safe.
Say again? Safety. Perfect, right? We want to be safe when we go to work, yes.
We don't want to be disrespected and sworn at and
Yep, we don't want to be disrespected. Perfect, we want to be sworn out, we don't want to be yelled at.
We want to make a difference.
We want to make a difference, I'm sure they do too, if we give them a chance. And you had something?
Some power to make some decisions.
Some
Some amount of
autonomy, some
power to
power,
make some decisions
some
sometimes.
empowerment. Right? We want these things. So if you think about it, if we want these things, which we do, and when we feel like we're not getting these things, we go to work, we're miserable. And it's a hard day. And it's a long day. And then you're walking out going, geez, I got to read that book on how never to work harder than your students, right? It's like every single day I work harder than my students. Something's backwards here, right? But it's how it goes. When we don't get those things, and we don't get those things every day. So, as a matter of fact, sometimes we get very few of those things, right? We don't feel good about our day. We don't feel good about our job. We don't feel good about the students. We look at them like, you're causing me pain. We may not say that, but we feel it. We feel it. You're causing me pain, right? And students are saying the same thing. You're causing me pain. Yeah. Now I wasn't originally planning on talking about this, but I gotta just give Jen a shout out here. She brought up PFC, the prefrontal cortex, and she said, Dan, I remember last year when you talked about that just really stuck in my head. The PFC, the prefrontal cortex, is that these kids, especially the boys, their prefrontal cortex, where things firing off, where they're making these decisions, regulation decisions, executive functioning that you just talked about, Dan. These boys' prefrontal cortex, they have not developed to like mid-20s. Mid-20s, that's bad news for us. That's very bad news for us, right? But the good news is, at least now we know. So we can, when we say, what are you, crazy? What is wrong with you? Right? It's a prefrontal cortex problem. It's a PFC. And I'm not talking about private first class, because I know you guys want to ship off to military school like that, but it's the PFC, prefrontal cortex. They're not developed. All right? So if we can keep that in mind, easier said than done, if we can keep that in mind, our perspective of looking at these kids that are causing us pain is different. Instead of being in our face, we're now 10,000 feet up. And we're looking down, and it's more objective. And yeah, the pain's still there, but it's not as much. Right? So we keep this stuff in mind. What we want, they want. And then we create the climate. So how do we create the climate? You know what I'm saying? That's what they want. They want to walk into a climate like us that's warm, that's friendly, that feels empowering, they feel respected. They feel like they can actually win. Do something worthwhile, maybe progress, win. I love saying that word, win. Right? They want to win, just like we want to win, right? And you create this climate where you got these, it's warm, it's fuzzy, they like being there. They'd rather be there than home. They'd rather be in your classroom than, let's say, the one down the hall. I've had kids over the years, when I've said to them, hey, Tajay, what's up, buddy? Hey, how's school going today? And I've had kids like Tajay say, come on, mister, you know your class is the only one I go to. It's happened more times than I can count. All right? And then I look out and I'm like, oh, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean my class is the only one you're going to? It's like, because I, Pollyannish, mushy, pat you on the shoulder. I get there's like emotional intelligence involved. There's a whole thing about, well, I teach math, or I teach history. And I go, really? Because I teach kids history. So when you go that point of view, you know what I'm saying? There's a whole social emotional intelligence that I don't think we're fully using when we're out there. You know, they say content's king. Yeah, maybe. But I'll tell you right now, as you go down those levels, content's king for AP, right? Those kids can self-regulate. They can, you know, they can be self-starters. You know, they persevere. They hang in there. Yeah, content is king there, right? Right? And maybe delivery's queen. I don't know. But as you go down the spectrum and you start getting those kids that give you more and more and more trouble, you think they care about content? You think they care when you say, if you talk again, I'm taking 5 points off your test? I don't give a crap about that. About taking 5 points off their test? Yeah. See, they don't care. Yeah, 60, I'm good, right? I'm giving me 59, somehow I'll make up the point, I don't know. But they don't care. They don't care. So if you can't get them to care about the content, you can't get them to care about the grades, then what do? You get them to care about you. You get them to care about you and the climate or the atmosphere in your room. And then you backdoor the content in a fun, interesting way. You backdoor the grades, and those are never up front. The content and the grades are never up front. You always backdoor it, right? You get that relationship going. All right, you guys with me on this? I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? Yeah, you have a little fun. I mean, I remember telling the kids, hey, what's the last thing President Teddy Roosevelt said to President Taft when President Taft became president and Teddy Roosevelt was taken off to go big game hunting in Africa? The kids were like, what? And I go, he told President Taft, whatever you do, stay off the horses. Right? President Taft was 350 pounds. You're like, he really said that? I said, yeah, he said that. You know what I'm saying? But now, guess what? If I can get them to laugh about that, I can probably tell them next about how President Roosevelt went to Africa big game hunting, and Rockefeller and all the other robber barons were flipping his bill because they didn't want him coming back because he was giving them a hell of a time when he was president. All right, so flip his bill and freaking keep him in Africa, right? And before, but if I didn't bring in that little joke about the horse, you know, they don't care about the content. They don't care about the content, and they don't have the age to appreciate the content. So we gotta just, what do they care about? Us. They care about us, okay? So you gotta create that climate any way you can. So one of the things, I'm gonna tell you guys, I'm gonna give you a bunch of little tricks on how to create that climate and a bunch of little just practical things you can do easily. But before I get there, I'm still talking big picture, okay? Still talking big picture. Because if you understand the big picture, if you understand how to think, then you can find your way. But if I sit there and say, okay, guys, here's the silver bullet, do 1, 2, 3, and you don't understand how to think or the big picture, first of all, you're not even going to do 1, 2, or 3. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen until you change your thinking and say, oh, I got to try to do it this way, that way. And if something looks different, if you got the thinking down, the big picture down, you can tweak it to fit the unique circumstances of your class. All right? So a few people have come to me and they said, Dan, you should systematize what you do. You can make lots of money. And I'm like, I don't know if what I do can be systematized, because I'm really not working on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Instead, I'm working on getting you to think differently, throwing some stuff at you, and you'd say, yep, I'll take that one, I'll take this one, I'll take that one. Nope, I'll take that one. Well, I could tweak that. And that would fit my class if I tweaked it. You know what I'm saying? So here it is. One of the biggest things you need to work on, all of us need to work on, is emotion. Believe it or not. If you want to get your kids moving, they're not going to move unless you get some emotion out of them. Emotion out of yourself. You have to connect with them emotionally, right? Motion comes from emotion. You won't get any emotion, any movement out of your kids if you don't have emotion. And going way back to the primal thing, if you think about it, there was a thing way back when we had just this little teeny bump on the top of our spinal cord, and some people call that the first brain. And that was, it wasn't able to analytically think. We didn't know all this gray matter yet, right? And so with the first brain we had, it was basically, you know, you guys like run for your lives, right? Right? It was instincts, Run for your life. Here comes the saber-tooth tiger, right? And some of it, was emotions. Some of it was spirituality. And that was about the gist of it. We really couldn't do anything beyond that, just like react. Emotionally react, run for your life, right? And maybe some spiritual thing, right? Maybe draw something on a cave somewhere and light a fire. I don't know, whatever. But eventually, our brains get bigger and we're able to think. So we need emotion. We have to somehow connect with these kids emotionally. We have to bring it back to like the primal, like the tribe. Bring it back. And again, this here, the tougher your kid is, probably the closer that kid is to being or wanting to be part of a tribe. That emotion thing will work. So you've really, really got to connect with these kids emotionally way before you connect with them intellectually. And it's kind of like what we said before, content king, yeah, for the upper levels, not for the lower levels. Content is not king for the troubled kids. All right, so connect with them emotionally. Emotions drive all human behavior. And when you tell a kid, why did you do that? And they go, I don't know. They're probably telling you the truth, right? Because it's not easy to intellectualize and then articulate your emotions. Emotions are confusing. Confusing for us adults. Could you imagine a kid trying to intellectualize, conceptualize their emotions and being able to bring it out in such a way that they can articulate to you why they did that? Why? Because they can't. So when they say, I don't know why I did it, when we get all mad and say, right? They probably don't know why they did it. So emotions drive all movement. Emotions drive all motion. If we want the kids to move, we want them to do something for us, like their classwork, like open their book, right? Like look at the whole paper we just passed back. Then we have to connect with them emotionally, okay? Now listen, believe it or not, all good car salesmen know this. Every single one of them, right? They know this, right? Coaches know this, right? Every single one of us should be studying sales. Believe it or not. And I know that may say, like, what? What are you talking about? Yes, every one of us, I'm going to tell you a whole bunch of other stuff we should be studying too later tonight. But every one of us should be studying sales because sales works on the psychology of getting people to move and do something that's supposed to be in their interest. I'm not talking about a con man when you're trying to get somebody to do something that's not in their interest. I'm talking a good salesperson has little tricks, little psychological tricks to get somebody to do something that should be in their best interest. So every one of us should be studying sales. Every one of us should be studying psychology. I think it's section 158 at the library. I think I've read over 100 books out of that section. So I said, salespeople get it. People who understand psychology get it. Sports, coaches, college coaches, professional coaches, they get it. They push buttons, right? Like one of my favorite scenes was that the United States hockey team, that Miracle, right? And when he goes in, Kurt Russell goes into, which was Coach Herb. Yeah, he goes into the locker room and he says to like his medical guy, because this guy's got this big freaking bruise on his thigh, and he goes, will he get injured if he plays? He goes, nah, he won't get injured more, but it'll hurt like hell. And he walks in and he starts ripping him up. Where's your heart? He's ripping this guy up, and this guy gets up and goes, I don't care, I'm gonna play. Like that, right? And then what happened? The whole team went right up, and they went out there, and they had a heck of a game. They came back and they won the game, right? See, coaches know how to do that. They know how to push your emotional buttons. And, and they're all over the spectrum with the emotions, whether it's pride, whether it's happiness, whether it's sad, whether it's anger, whether it's ego. They push those buttons and they get better performances out of their athletes than we get out of our students. Matter of fact, they get way better performances out of their athletes than we get out of their students. And I know what you're thinking, because I'm thinking this all the time. Wait a minute, this isn't apples to apples. Those athletes want to be there. My students don't want to be there. They tell me every day they don't want to be there. You know what I'm saying? You're right, I get it. But what if we knew and were able to utilize more of those emotions and more of those little psychological tricks that salesmen and sports coaches are so good at? What if we were able to do more of that? When I was a wrestling coach, All right, 14 years I was a wrestling coach. I coached Connecticut's, I was on the wrestling coach team that coached Connecticut's first national champion. And then I coached over 20 All-Americans on that, those summer teams, those travel teams. And those kids, especially the inner city kids, right? Those kids would go through a brick wall for me, or for whoever their coach was. My students, I mean, do our students go through brick walls for us? Especially the inner city kids, especially the trouble kids? Do they go through brick walls for us? But what if we could get them to at least look at the brick wall? Wouldn't that be an improvement? So yeah, so we need to study this stuff. And I know we got, you got to study pedagogy, you got to study content. Now Dan's telling you to study sales, to study psychology, study sports, all right? But guess what? Any trick you can use is a good trick. All right, maybe I shouldn't use that word trick. Maybe I should just say method, right, or strategy. All right, any strategy is a good one. All right, so emotions drive everything, okay? The other thing is relationships are everything. Pretty much everything I've just been talking about is relationships. Right? I just told you could try to get a kid to go through a wall for you. No kid's going to go through a wall for you unless they have a great relationship with you. Okay, and I know that's a sports terminology. All right, but maybe in the classroom, we get a kid to finally start doing his homework who would have never done it. We get a kid to come in and he or she says, you know what? I'll do my classwork today for you, just for you. I'm not doing it for me because I don't believe in myself yet, but I'll do it for you, right? Can we build upon that? We can build upon that. So we get the kid to do the classwork for his teacher. And then we build upon that, all right? So relationships are everything. We always have to be working on relationships. And there's a lot of ways to work on relationships. For instance, day one, when the kids come in, you probably shouldn't say, do page 10, numbers 1 to 10. You should probably say, push the content aside, and you probably should say, hey, what's your name? What do you like? What do you do? I'm saying and I know a lot of us do that, all right? But how many of us do it again on the second day, and the third day, and the 50th day, and the 80th day? And I'm not saying not to do content, but I'm just saying you can constantly weave it in, but we get lost. We get lost in saying we got to get, the pacing guide. We got to catch up. The other teacher next door is ahead of us, right? Christmas is coming, and we got to get this project done before Christmas. So I'm going to put any relationship building I could possibly do in the back burner, right? And then what's happening? The kids are acting up. And then I'm not getting the project done anyways, right? This is so frustrating. We get so mad as teachers. But yeah, we don't have to. We can totally look at it differently. We could be, relationships are everything. Build those relationships with the kids, and you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how many times somebody say, come on, mister, your class is the only one I go to. It happens all the time. Okay, so I'd mentioned before about the tribe, the primal. It's the same thing. You build those relationships. It goes way, 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 way back. There's this DNA wired. I mean, think about it. When they were way, way, way back, what did you need? You needed protection from the saber-toothed tigers. You needed a tribe. You needed people. Whether we call it a neighborhood, a community, or whatever it is, a classroom. But back, you needed people for protection. It was primal. It was tribe, right? And if you think about it, let's kind of fast forward a little bit. You fast forward a little bit, and what do you got? I was in the Army. I got my brothers in green. Do anything for those guys, right? We're brothers. We would do anything for each other. Right? I can think about sports, playing sports, right? The guys on my state championship football team, right? We would do anything for each other. It's that whole tribe mentality. Do we have that in our classroom? No. My wrestling team, same sort of thing. The guys I wrestled in the Junior Olympics with, it was the same sort of thing. It all goes back to our DNA. It's wired in us that we need that tribe. We need that protection. We need that safety. You know what I'm saying? We need those relationships. And yet we constantly neglect them because we got to get this project done before Christmas. All right, so I hope I'm giving you guys a lot to think about. And I know what I'm saying is easier said than done. But if I can change the way you guys think, then you can tweak your own classroom for your own unique needs and get it done. Now, guys, please realize, when I say all this stuff, I wasn't like this in the beginning. When I first started teaching, and I came out of the Army, right? If I gave a kid his homework back, and he knocked his homework or his paper on the floor, and his pencil fell on the floor, I'd be like, pick up my pencil right now. You know what I'm saying? And then you know what I found? I was sick by Christmas. And then by spring, I was really sick. And then the next year, it was like I had a cold the whole year. And then the third year, the cold like never went away because I was still in that Army mode. You know what I'm saying? What are you dropping my pencil for? You know, stuff like that. And it was just like, and then it hit me. I said, wait a minute. When I was in the Army, they only allowed you to be a drill sergeant for 2 years. And after 2 years, they forced you to move on. I'm like, why did the Army do that? Because you can't scream at the recruits for more than 2 years. It's not good for your health. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going on about 4 or 5 years of screaming at the students, and I feel terrible. Sick all the time, one cold after another. And I said, something's got to change. Something's got to be different, right? So it's not that I like gave up the fight. I didn't. I just thought there's got to be a better way. Right? The Army way is not working here, especially in the inner city. I mean, all the kids, they were like ganging up on me and doing whatever they could when my back was turned. You know what I'm saying? They were doing all sorts of crazy stuff, and I was like, I hate this job. And I did. I did hate that job. And I was driving home, squeezing my steering wheel, going, I'm not going to quit, 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 like all the way home. So if anybody's ever done this, then you can kind of understand the anguish that I was going through. You know what I'm saying? And that was like, how am I going to make it through this year, let alone 30 years? Right, but I changed my style, and it made a lot more sense to go this way. And now when I walk into school, kids smile at me instead of like, hey, let's get them, let's get them. You know what I'm saying? So that stuff just doesn't work too good. I learned the hard way, the Army way, and I was fresh, I was kind of new, still out of the Army. But the Army way did not work. All right, so here it is. Relationships are everything. Set the tone right away. This is one of the things that I do every single year is I get in there, and I think the teachers that don't do this, and I've seen teachers that don't do this, I think they're missing out on something. I get in there, and I put on my seat, I make a seating chart before the kids come to school. And if I don't have their names available, then I'm coming in at like 5:30 in the morning, that morning, and making a seating chart. So that day one, when they show up at my door, I'm in that door. I'm right there. And the first person they see is me. And it's like they can't get into my room without high-fiving me, shaking hands with me, so they're thinking, all right. And then I go, oh, Mia, second row, second seat. And some of them just quietly go. And then some of them go, we have assigned seats? Yeah. Tasha, yep, you do. Third row, third seat. Like that. Does anybody know why I do that? And why do I meet them the first day? Boom, I set the tone right at the door. High five them, shake their hands, and then I tell them where to sit.
You have control. You're trying to tell them, I have control.
Perfect.
Expectations.
Expectations, perfect. I'm the really nice guy that's going to tell them what the heck to do. Yeah. And guess what? It's like one hand washes the other, you know what I'm saying? Like you can lean on a kid a little bit more in class if when you see him in the hallway, you're like, dude, what's up? Right? You high five a kid in the hallway. You go, Jose, my buddy, Jose, how are you? When you do that in the hallway, you can lean on them a little more in the class. All right? Because you're building that relationship. Right? You're building up a little bit of that social, emotional bank account with them when you do that. So it's the same thing, that I'm like the nicest guy in the world. Boom, 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 whatever, boom. Second seat, first row. Like that, all right? I'm the nice guy that's going to tell them what to do. I'm in charge. I don't want them to get any ideas that they're in charge. Now, our first interaction, I'm going to make it real clear that I'm in charge. And you know what? We're the adults. We are in charge. Is that sometimes it's just a difficult thing to do, to be in charge. But we're in charge. So, boom, Set the tone right away. High five, boom, boom, second seat. And that's it. Another thing that I do is routines. Routines. Every single day when they come into my classroom, I've got this routine, and I tape this to the side of the wall right when they come through. It's called Class Creed. It's called Play Like a Champion. I'll read to you in 1 second. And every day they tap it, they shake my hand, they walk over, they grab their book, they look at the board, vocabulary, page 20. They go to their seat, they start the vocabulary, page 20. And then after I get all the kids in the classroom, I come in. Now, again, this is when I'm a regular ed teacher, right? And the guy running the show. And I come in after all the kids are in, and I take attendance while they're working on whatever I gave them. They're due now. And it's quiet, right? And I'm in charge. And then after I take the attendance, yesterday's papers, passing out the papers, and I got them all nice and neat and orderly, alphabetical order, and I'm passing out papers in about a minute, right? And then I'm sitting there and I'm watching them, and they've got about maybe 5 more minutes of work. That's the starting routine every single day. With the reception of everyone, every once in a while you want to mix things up, but almost every single day. That's the starting routine. Now, why the heck would I do that? Why would I have the same routine every single day?
It's structured as well as predictable, because when it's not predictable, and therefore all the students crave for that because they know what to expect, and therefore it's easy for them to please you and please themselves because they actually felt accomplished for it.
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct. Anybody else want to volunteer? When you have routine, you have structure. You have safety. The kids know what to expect. So it wasn't like they can walk in and say, I didn't know what to do. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like they could just sit there and just talk and throw something at you. Well, you didn't say to do that. And it's like, dude, I don't have to say it. It's the routine. It's on the board. You know it, right? So, and how many times have we heard, these kids need more structure? These kids crave structure. I know you've heard that. These kids crave structure, and yet we don't always give it to them. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes as teachers, we might be getting bored of the routine. You're like, this is getting boring. Oh my God, it's driving me crazy. Same thing every day. But guess what? You start mixing that routine up, you watch their behaviors. It starts getting louder in the classroom. And things start changing.
They ain't broke it, don't fix it.
Yeah, but ain't broken,
Right.
don't fix it.
Ain't
And then
broken, don't fix it.
every once in a while, you may be throwing a bone. Something different, right? But the majority of the time, we got a routine. You guys are safe here. You're structured here. You know what's coming. There's no tricks anywhere. You know what's expected of you. And then if you get some kid that's kind of going off routine, hopefully it's only one or two, and you can kind of get on them a little bit. But when you've got 15, 20 kids talking and fooling around and not doing their classwork, and you can't even get attendance done, and the class is over, and you're thinking, I don't even know who's here. You know what I'm saying? I get teachers doing attendance at the end of the day. I'm like, how? How do you do that? You're way the heck smarter than I am if you do that.
This might be a whole nother thing, but how do you deal with if, as a para, the teacher doesn't set the structure?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up because I was just going to, my next sentence was going to say, the para, the second adult in the room, you're a little limited here because you can't always set that routine. And then every now and then you may get an erratic teacher. And I've been there. And it's tough. Because you want to sit there and you say, and this is what I do. I pull that teacher aside after class, or we both have like calf duty or whatever, and I talk to this teacher over and over about, let's do this, let's have the same routine every day, let's do this, let's do that. And he's like, yeah, and it lasts for like one day. And then I walk in the second day, and it's like it's chaos in the room. And it's like, what the heck's going on here? You know what I'm saying? And I guess with that, what I would say is that don't give up. Just keep working it. I mean, work it in a way, hopefully where the teacher doesn't get too mad at you, but try to work it. But there's some teachers, a routine is just not who they are. And that I'm working with one now. You know what I'm saying? That's just not who he is. And it drives me crazy because I'm like, this class could be run so much better. right? But what I'm doing is I'm getting them to do little compromises, little teeny compromises here and there.
I was just gonna throw in here, because I work with a lot of paras, and I hear a lot of discussion about like, hey, my hands are tied oftentimes, and there are these adult relationships that exist, right? What I have found are sort of two things. One is, I'll let you do whatever you want, as long as it's not more work for me, right? So if somebody comes in and is like, I have a great idea, here's what I'd like to do, my first question is, what do I have to do? And as long as the answer is nothing, then I'm cool with that, right? So if you're willing to put a little bit more on yourself, if you have a project, I think a lot of what he's saying is you may have to take some ownership of being the person who kind of consistently implements, because a great idea might not be their first priority. The other thing is, I was talking to Dan about this earlier, we are absolutely creatures, we are absolutely animals. The way to get somebody to do something is to show them it helps them. So what I would say is, I notice you spend a lot of time having to do this, and I can tell that's really frustrating for you. If I did this, I wonder if it might mean you didn't have to do that anymore. So how does it make their life easier for you to be able to do something you want to do? And no more work for them, because they're not really interested in that. Those would be my two tidbits.
Cool. Those are great tidbits. And thank you. Thank you for sharing. That was great stuff. All right, so I talked about the routine. Here's a little psychological trick that I use. And again, your hands may be tied a little bit if you're the second adult in the room, but who knows? I mean, maybe you got a teacher that's understanding and might be willing to think outside the box and try something different. I created this class creed thing, which I put. Have you guys ever seen like Notre Dame football? When they come down, remember I touched like football, like sports, they kind of got it on us, right? If you ever watch Notre Dame football, when they come out of the locker room onto the football field, they got that, it says, play like a champion, and they, boom, they freaking slap it, and they run out in the field all fired up, right? And I said, well, why can't we do that in the classroom? All right, so what I do is I put this on the outside wall, and when the kids come in, they slap it, just like Notre Dame football. It's just a little psychological thing to put a little goosebumps on their back, right, and kind of get them like, oh, I'm here now, I'm ready to go, right? And it says this, class creed, never think like a victim. Don't waste energy casting blame. Focus on the goal and work day by day to overcome the obstacles in your path. Ask for help when you need it. Help others when you can. Set expectations high, accept no less than your best effort, and never give up. And finally, play like a champion. So when they come into my room, they slap it, shake my hand, high five me, whatever it is, and they go get their book, they look at the board, they sit down, they do their do now, and when they're coming out of my room, right? I got this right here when you're going in. When they're coming out of my room, I got another one right here. Another one right there. So when they're going out to the real world and where I'm not protecting them anymore, it's reinforced. Right? It's reinforced, right? It puts a little coat of armor on them as they go out into the real world, and they slap it, and now they're ambidextrous. They got both sides of their minds working, right? Because they slap it the right on the way in, left on the way out. It's right there, right? And then another thing that I do is for the more athletic kids, I've got, and I'll talk a little bit about this later. This is my Candy Award, constant, never-ending, deliberate improvement, and I put that up top, right there and right there. So sometimes I got kids, some kids don't do anything, especially the girls, but let's say the taller boys or the athletic boys, they're slap this, we can jump up, slap that, we can shake my hand, and guys, guess how are they entering my class? Right now, they're entering my class like they're excited and they're winners, and that's kind of a cool way. Right? Are they going to be angels? No, not always. But at least I have a chance, a psychological chance, and I stole that from sports, right? Because think about it. I mean, sports, these people perform well, and they get a lot of good things in the world. But do they deserve the good things in the world more so than us and our students? What makes them more worthy? Why should they get more good stuff than us? Right? And if they use these little psychological tricks to perform better, then why can't we borrow some of them? All right, so again, I'll show you guys this. I'll talk more about this later, and I'll have them up here so you guys can take them at the end of the night. Okay, so my routine. Got my routine going, right? Boom, slap this, slap that, high five the teacher, shake his hand, whatever it is. Get your stuff, sit down. Right, I get that same routine every single day, which brings that structure, brings that safety, right? No, it brings that they know what's expected, right? So here's another thing that I throw in. And again, right now I'm working on all climate, atmosphere, big thinking, big picture. I'm working all that. Here's another thing that we don't do enough. All right. Be interesting. You don't do it enough. You know? Hey, you know what? Maybe I'm going to go train for a 5K. Right? Maybe when I was younger, I wanted to do a 5K, but just never did it. So now I want to go do a 5K, maybe a 10K, or whatever it is. Right? So I'm going to go, it was one of my goals I kind of like lost sight of. I'm going to go run that 5K. And guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to share my training experiences with the kids. I'm going to tell them about my goal. And they're going to see me as more than just a teacher that's doing a 5K, right? Maybe I'm going to go take surfing lessons. And I'm going to tell the kids, taking surfing lessons. I fell down, hurt my back yesterday, but I'm coming back tonight, right? I'm going to tell them that stuff. Now they're not looking at me as just a teacher. You know who my best students were? My athletes, right, when I was coaching. Because they looked at me as their coach, not their teacher. So you got to get these people, these kids, to look at you as more than just a teacher, right? Maybe you're an artist. Maybe you start sharing some of your artwork with them. You know, maybe you got your own blog. You gonna say something?
No, it's just coffee.
Okay, so maybe, yeah, maybe you're a good golfer. I don't know.
I like a couple things, you know, we have sports in our schools, the teachers play against the kids.
Perfect.
And we won in volleyball, so that carried a little bit of weight for a day or two. Then
Oh,
they
yeah.
forgot about it completely.
Oh, they do. They got short-term memory problems. You know how it is. Well, now, but
Next thing
anytime.
is dodgeball.
Yeah, the dodgeball. But listen, anytime you could do a little thing like that, it builds a little momentum. You know what I'm saying? So just keep doing it. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you wanted to start your own YouTube channel. Imagine that. The kids would be like, dude, my teacher's a YouTuber. Right? You know, there's a lot of different things you could do. And if you're not sure what they are, then maybe we could kind of think back when we were younger, what were some of our goals? All right? And then this is a win-win. This is a total win-win. What were some of our goals? Guess what? They're still there. And guess what? Now that we're older, right, and that we're more capable now, those goals will be easier for us because we're older and more capable now. Right? So we get some of those goals. We start doing what it is, you know, whatever it is, YouTube and blogging. Maybe I want to write a book. Maybe I want to run a marathon. You know what it is. Maybe I want to get in a cage match. You know, whatever it is, right? Maybe I want to learn how to skateboard. Whatever it is, right? Maybe I want to start going down and being a volunteer coach at some of the sports. Maybe I want to get on the wrestling mat and just roll around with some of the wrestlers out there, right? I want to learn some of those wrestling moves. You know, whatever it is, you go for that old goal that you had, and you have fun doing it, and you share it. You tell the students about these things, right? And all of a sudden, they start liking you a lot more. You know, as you said, you show up. You know, the staff versus students football game or whatever it is. You know, if you play, great. If you don't play, watch. Watch, that'll carry some weight. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you wanted to play quarterback. I always wanted to play quarterback, right? Well, get in there and play quarterback or something like that. So you do these things that carry some weight, and it makes you more interesting in the kids' eyes. I remember one time I was running a wrestling tournament for the middle school. And I was in blue jeans, sneakers, had the baseball hat on, and I was at the edge of the mat coaching the kid. And I remember being like this, coaching the kid, got the baseball hat on, right? And one of my students comes up and sits right next to me. And he goes, "Mister, I've never seen you like this before." I was like, yeah, I don't wear baseball hats to work and blue jeans, right? I wear like suits or whatever else I was wearing. But none of that. But in a way, this kid was like, dang. I mean, it caused the kid to take a second look at me. And anything that we could do to get them to take a second look at us, it builds momentum, okay? It builds momentum. All right, so, hey guys, don't be afraid of social media. Social media is kind of cool. The kids love it. And we can, you know, let's say we have something that's worthy of saying. Say it. Say it out there on social media. I know that kind of scares some of you guys because you're like, well, where do you draw the line? And that might be a little tough. But if you got something to say, if you want to like start a blog, you know what I'm saying? I mean, don't do anything that's going to get you fired or anything like that. But if you want to start a blog, and don't put kids' names and like that. But if you want to start a blog or something like that, start a blog and share it. I'm saying it could be on anything, you know. So don't be afraid of social media. I mean, these kids, you know, they're digital natives. They're into the social media stuff. If they see you on social media, like when I tell the kids, yeah, I got a YouTube channel. I'm saying, yeah, I have a website. what I'm saying? Like, whatever. Maybe I got a website for underwater basket weaving. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But as long as they know I got a website, they're going to be like, oh, really? They know you got a YouTube channel. They're going to be like, dang, they're going to look at you a little bit differently if they know that you're like, you kind of get social media a little bit. Right? All right, so I said I was going to go back to this candy. So let me talk about this real quick. There's a couple things I do. Like I said, I put this above the door so they can slap, and not all of them do, but some of them do. And quite frequently, and this might have happened to you guys a few times, the students would say, hey, mister, do you have any candy? I go, yeah, I got plenty of candy with an I. Because I'm always drilling in their heads that candy is constant, never-ending, deliberate improvement. So candy with an I, right? So what I do is I have them like do this little thing on the paper. When every paper they hand into me, they draw a little one of these on the top of the paper. I give them 1 point, right? 1 point. It's nothing. 1 point's nothing. Right? So and a whole bunch of them do it. So it's kind of like a little class logo, little class motto, right? Is that what are you here for? You're here to constantly and never-endingly, is that a word? Never-endingly? Never-ending, deliberate improvement. That's what you're here for. If you improve this much every single day, in 2 years, your own mother won't recognize you. Okay? So I have a little logo on top of the paper. I give them a point. Boom, boom, 1 point. It's easy. It's nothing. Point's nothing. It's not really going to jump their grade a whole lot, but it reminds them of what they're here for. Constant, never-ending, deliberate improvement every day. All right? So I got this, draw this on your paper, and then what I do is I look out at the class, and I say, okay, what does this class need? And then I say, all right, this class, not good at attendance. So then I say, all right, so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to start giving out candy awards. So whoever gets 10 days of being in school, you're going to get what's called the bronze. Candy awards, you put your name on it all nice. I'll color it, scribble all over it in brown. We can put it up on the bulletin board, right? And then I do a silver one for 20 days in school, and then I do a gold one for 30 days in school. Per quarter, right? And then I've even done platinum, right, which is 40 days, which is pretty much the kid in school every day. I maybe missed one, maybe, right? But maybe I'm looking at the class and I'm like, nah, this class is all right. They're pretty much here every day, most of them, right? So I'm like, well, what are these kids like not doing? Well, they're not doing a lot of them aren't doing their classwork. So then that's what I do for this. All right, I'm taking your papers every day, right? And I'm doing this. And the first usually 2 weeks later, you get your first couple kids. Your first couple kids will get the bronze candy for handing in 10 classwork assignments. And then you do a little ceremony. Pass it out, they put their name on it, you staple it up on the bulletin board, you can high five them, whatever, you make a little ceremony of it, and the other kids are looking around, and the funny thing is, you think, well, isn't that kind of childish? Guess what, we all like shiny things, even if they're in crayons, right? We all like shiny things, even if it's in crayons. So then maybe you do a silver, for 20, I do a gold for 30 days, 30 classwork assignments, and it in. Maybe I'm looking at the class, and I'm like, this class is all right, they're like pretty much here most days. They're pretty much doing their classwork assignment. I can't get anybody to do their homework, though. That happens all the time, so I do the same procedure for homework. Or sometimes I'm a little more demanding, and I'm like, you know what? This is what we're going to do it. I'm going to do 10 days in class, 10 classwork assignments handed in, and 10 homework assignments handed in, and 10 logos on your paper. So now if you've only written 4 logos on your paper, but you've been there 20 days, guess what? You don't have your 10 yet. You don't have your bronze yet. So sometimes I have to look at the class and say, what does this class need? Right? And then I use it. So I'll have this up here. You guys can photocopy these, bring them back to your school. I hope I have enough for everyone. If not, you can email me and I'll get you one. All right? And you can just look out your class and you don't have to do it. But if you want to do it, you can. It's like, what does the class need, like a little encouragement with? You know what I'm saying? And then they say that stuff. Hey, you got any candy? Yeah, I got candy with an eye. I got plenty of candy with an eye. Right? So you do these little rewards, the candy award, constant, never on the deliberate improvement. And again, it would be unique circumstances for your class. All right? Again, I'm going to repeat myself. We all like little shiny things. So I know some teachers are going to say, oh, that's so childish. But guess what? It helps. All right? Is it going to make all the kids behave? Is it going to make all the kids do the homework? The answer is no. But every little thing that I add up, this helps, now that helps, now this helps, now that helps, now this helps. And guess what's happening? I'm doing a bunch of things right. And these kids now are doing a pretty good job in my class. All right, a wonderful job, perfect job, maybe not. But they're doing a pretty good job in my class now. All right, because of just a lot of little teeny things that I'm doing right. But I'm not going to do a lot of little teeny things right unless I sort of got like a big philosophy, sort of like a big way, a big picture way of thinking. All right, like what am I trying to create? Relationships. Trying to create relationships. I'm trying to encourage these kids to do the right things. All right, I'm trying to build a little pride in them. And it's all baby steps, especially with today's kids. Right, it's all baby steps with them. But a whole bunch of little baby steps and now you got something. You've gotten somewhere. All right? And it'd be very tempting to just throw your hat in and say, that's it, I'm done. It's not working, it's not moving fast enough. You're right, it's not moving fast enough. I agree with you. But it's a lot of little baby steps. A lot of little baby steps. And before you know it, spring is here and you're like, you know what? I'm not miserable this year. I mean, I'm tired as heck, right? Really tired, right? And so I have some bad days, but I'm not miserable this year. And I think I'm going to be able to get to June. Not so bad this year, right? All right, so another thing I do is I've told you about the routine, right? I take attendance, pass back yesterday's papers that I grade, and I stay on top of those things, right? And then I watch them. I watch them for a few minutes, whatever it is, to finish up. And then right when they're done, I look at them, and I don't say, what's number one? I don't say that. I said, all right, 3 good things. Who's got a good thing today? Somebody give me a good thing. What's good? What's good? Somebody give me a good thing. And in the beginning, they're going to be shy. It takes a while for them to get comfortable doing this. But in the beginning, they're going to be shy. So I say things like, hey, Dan, thank you for volunteering. Right? I just call their name and tell them that they volunteered. Right? And I thank them. And they go, what? I didn't volunteer. Oh, well, thank you. So what's good for you? And sometimes they'll just come out and say it. Other times they won't. They'll be like, no, I didn't volunteer, right? And I'll say, hey, your feet wet. And they'd be like, my feet's not wet. Oh, that's a good thing. You didn't fall in the brook on the way to school today. Your feet are dry. That's a good thing. Next, I'm looking for 2 more. And I insist. I insist on 3 good things. And I will go around and I will get 3 good things every day, even if I have to coach them big time in the beginning. But after a while, you start seeing this. My sister had a baby, or so-and-so lent me a pencil. You start seeing that. It doesn't happen on day 1. But you start seeing that. So I start every single class with good things. It's part of the routine. All right? And again, some teachers will be like, whoa, dude, when do you teach content? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, they just did 10 vocabulary words, and it's only going to take me like 2 minutes to do good things. And it's going to totally change eventually. It's going to totally change the climate of my class to a real positive one where they share. Not going to happen day 1 or week 1, but it's going to happen because it's another one of those little baby steps, a lot of little teeny things that I'm doing right. All right? So, again, I guess if you're the second one in the classroom, second adult in the classroom, you might be a little limited here because maybe you're not running the routine. So you could maybe suggest a few of these things to the teacher, and the teacher may look at you like you're crazy. And that could happen, right? But let's just say you manage to plant like 1 or 2 good seeds with that teacher. And then, maybe later on closer to Christmas, you plant those seeds again, right? And maybe after the new year, you say, hey, what do we got to lose? Let's try this. And the teacher says, let's try good things and see if we can create a better climate in this classroom, because every day we're taking 2 minutes, and that's all it takes. Maybe some days 90 seconds, right, to do good things, maybe, right? But I think it was something like Jen said before, sometimes you got to speak up. If you're the second adult in the classroom, you got to be a little more assertive. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later, but sometimes you got to do that. And yes, I do know that you're kind of limited a little bit with some of the things you can do, but sometimes you put some of those invisible chains on yourself, and you really can speak up more. You just don't. You know what I'm saying? You really could take charge more, and you just don't. You really could show that teacher or explain to that teacher how the class would be better, how that teacher would benefit. And you don't. And I've done the same thing. I've done the same thing when I've struggled with teachers, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do with this teacher. Oh my God, this class is crazy, right? And it happens all the time. All right? So I've got the good things. All right, now this next one is really crazy. Okay, so the routine. I've kind of explained to you guys how the routine starts, right? And then I get into it. We get into, okay, now let's do, after good things. Now let's talk about the vocabulary, whatever it was. Let's talk about this, right? Then we get into our next routine. I do little routine blocks, like 10, 15-minute blocks. Now we're going to do this. Now we're going to do that. And at the end, I told you they're going to hit the wall on the way out. There's something kind of crazy that I do right before I dismiss them. And it only takes maybe a minute, right? And this is kind of crazy. It's called Mr. Blanchard's Blessing, is what I do. And it's not religious, but here it is. I'll give you the real quick background on this. I got 5 kids at home from ages 16 to 6. And I started with my oldest one when she was just little, and I did this for a very long time. As a parent, any one of you, you understand what I'm going to say next. You want the best for your kid. And when you go off to work the next morning, and your kid goes off to school or wherever they go off, you're not there to protect them. So wouldn't it be kind of cool if they had some kind of coat of armor on them that kind of protected them a little bit? All right? So what I started doing, and I studied and read and studied a lot of books on psychology and sales and sports and everything else, and pedagogy and content, but let's go back to psychology, right? And one of the things in psychology, right, which is section 158 in the library, I think I read over 100 of those books. One of the things they said, the last thing you hear at night before you go to sleep, it just kind of like tosses around in your mind, like maybe your subconscious mind, right? And I mean, and as adults, we know that. We wake up in the middle of the night worried about something, right, because of whatever, right? So the psychologists say that if you plant something positive in your kids' minds, and, you know, at the end of the night, you read a book, you say your prayers, right? And then I used to, boom, put my hand right on their chest. And I used to give them Daddy's blessing. Because when I left that room and they slept, I wanted that kind of Daddy's blessing kind of going around in their head, in their subconscious mind. Like, they don't even know they're thinking about it, but they are. And they wake up in the morning, they feel confident and maybe protected and strong and empowered, hopefully. I'm hoping they feel that way. But they don't know they feel it. They just feel it. Because hopefully their subconscious mind was working on it. So I did this for years with my kids, and then it hit me. I said, well, wait a minute. I said, if I'm doing that with my own children, why can't I do that with my students? And I said, oh, my students will laugh me out of the room, right? I'm like, it'd be embarrassing to try to do this with them. But then I thought about it, and I said, okay, the subconscious mind works on what you said last to them, especially right before bed, right? I said, what if, right when my students were leaving my class, I programmed them and protected them against the outside world? Because when they're in my classroom, they're protected. The climate is good. But as soon as they leave the classroom, the arrows start flying at them. People are saying, dude, you wore that today? Yeah, dude, I saw your girlfriend kissing another guy, right? I mean, who knows what they're saying? But the kids, especially, you know the kids are, they're always taking shots at each other, right? Always. So they leave the room and they go into, you know, they come from a very protected, warm place, my classroom, and they go out there and it's terrible. It's terrible. So I said, well, what if I could protect them with a coat of armor by just programming them the way I've been programming my own kids? Now, did it work? I got 5 awesome kids. So I'm thinking it worked, right? My 16-year-old is taller than me. My 13-year-old is taller than me. And they're really good kids. Very good kids. All right, so I'm thinking it worked. So I'm like, I got 3 little girls after that. And all of them are good kids, real good kids. So I think it worked. So why can't I work with my students? Maybe it won't be as effective because they're not going to sleep, maybe. But guess what? I'm going to do it anyways. So what I did was one day I just told them the story I'm telling you. And I said, from now on, Mr. Blanchard's giving you a blessing before you leave, because I want to program your minds, put a coat of armor on you so when you go out there and someone calls your name, it just bounces off. And that you're safe and you're protected and you're a little bit stronger until you get back to me tomorrow. Because when you get back to me tomorrow, you'll be safe again here. When you get back here too. I said, but I can't protect you in between. I said, but I can protect you with Mr. Blanchard's blessing. Okay, so it's corny. All right, it's real corny. But I do it anyways, I don't care. Right? The kids love it. And then, I remember parents Parents come in for conferences, their daughters come in and say, Mommy, I want this guy to be my daddy. Gives me the blessing, right? High school girls saying that. I want this guy to be my daddy because of the blessing. And that's why. So here it is. And I acted out. Oh, by the other, you guys should all study acting. You should study comedy. I should be like a summertime clown. Well, now, right? I acted out. I do a lot of like this stuff in my class. And I acted out. So here comes the blessing. You ready? I go, you have big hearts, strong body, like I'm grabbing your bicep, right? Strong body and a powerful mind. And I go, I feel your heartbeat. Ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. And I know this world's a better place because you were born. And I go, your teacher loves you forever and ever and ever. By the way, that was kind of hard for me to say, especially on day one. Because I'm like, they're going to think I'm so weird, right? By saying your teacher loves you, right? But that's what I did. And I did it every single day for years after that. So I said, your teacher loves you no matter what, right? And I said, so today, when you go on that world, my princesses and my princes of New England go out with bravery and courage. And I go, you have been blessed. You are armed. And I'm pointing at kids, right? And I'm like, you are strong. And you can handle anything that world throws at you today. Ain't that right, Jen? And the kid always goes, yeah! And then all the other kids are going, yeah! And then they run and they freaking slap everything on the way out, right? And I just pray they don't run down the hallway. But guess what? I get them pumped up coming into my classroom. I get them pumped up and I program them. So when they leave my classroom, hopefully somebody says something to them, it just bounces off them. Hopefully they can't wait to get back to my class. So it doesn't surprise me when kids say, oh, come on, mister, you know this is the only class I'll come to. It kind of doesn't surprise me in some ways. I wish it wasn't true. I wish they went to all their classes. But at least they're coming to my class. So, I mean, I guess it's better to go to a class instead of no classes, because if we get them to go to a class, now we have a chance to get them to go to a second class. Right? Baby steps. And then maybe we have a chance to get them to go to a third class. Baby steps. You get to do a lot of little baby steps right. A lot of little things right. Right? And they add up over time. So this too, Mr. Blanchard's blessing, will be up here. It's really corny, but the kids grow to love it. And there are sometimes I'll be teaching, I'll be looking up, and I'll be like, there's 5 minutes in class, and I've got like 6 minutes of material. Right? And then I'm looking up, it's like 4. And I'm looking up, it's like 3. And I'm like, I'm not going to have time today for the blessing. Guess what starts happening? Mister, the clock. You got to hurry up and do the blessing. So that's happened a bunch of times. They ask me to do the blessing. Right? So again, you say, oh, that's so, it sounds childish, like they're not going to like it. But they do. The problem is, are you courageous enough to put yourself in a spot where you may look foolish and sound foolish just to work on the climate of your classroom? I am. I'm kind of good at being foolish, I guess. Well, no, but it builds the climate of my classroom. I don't mind doing it. You know what I'm saying? Do I fail sometime? Yeah, especially on day one with a new class. I always get worried every year, will this be the year that the kids look at me and say, dude, you're whacked? But they don't. They haven't done it yet. And I've been doing this for like 10 years. And they haven't done it yet. So I guess it works. Seems to be working, right? All right, so another thing I do, and these are all just little tricks. But again, if you got the big picture in your mind, then you can come up with your own little tricks. You don't have to use mine. But these are little tricks. This right here, I'm very fortunate that New Britain High School has these postcards. They don't cost me a penny. New Britain High School pays for these. So what I do is every single day when I'm teaching my class, instead of looking for what the kids are doing wrong, I'm looking for what the kids are doing right. And I keep a little clipboard on my desk that's got little check marks next to every kid's name that I sent a postcard. And I try to send 1 or 2 postcards every single day so that by Christmas, almost every kid's gotten a postcard. And by June, almost every kid's gotten, let's say, 2 postcards. By June. And I keep, like, sometimes I'd be like, wow, I should send this kid a postcard. This kid's awesome. And then I'll go look at my desk. I'm like, oh, I've already sent him 4. No, I got to get somebody else. Oh, look, little Johnny. Oh, Johnny doesn't do anything good. You know what I'm saying? I get some Johnny. Oh, what's that? Oh, Johnny's got his name in the paper. Ooh. And I'll be like, you know, later in the day, I'll be like, Johnny, great job today putting your name on the paper. I'll do that. I'll look for the little, and then I go, check, got him. Like that, right? And then like a couple days later, I address it to little Johnny, or little Jose, or little Susie, or whoever. I address it to them, not their parents. Now, when my school first came out with this, my school said address it to their parents. I said, that doesn't make sense to me. Parents are used to getting stuff in the mail. Kids aren't. All right? So I address it to the kid. And this is what happens a lot of the time. Mom goes to the mailbox, gets it, and sees her son's name. She flips it around, and she sees Mr. Blanchard, and she's just like, Johnny, what did you do today in school? And he comes running, what? You teach, what is this? What is this? And the kid's like, I don't know. You know, if it's early in the year, the kid's saying, I don't know what that is. If it's later in the year, the kid knows it's a positive postcard. But if it's early in the year, the kid doesn't know. He's like, I don't know. And the mother looks at it. She's like ready to kill her kid. And she's like, Johnny, good job putting your name on the paper today. Keep smiling. Keep up the good work, Mr. Blanchard. Guess who shows up the next day in school holding a postcard? Little Johnny. Little Johnny, Lucy, Maria, whoever, shows up carrying a postcard, and they go, Mister, my mom almost killed me yesterday. Until she read it. And he goes, thanks. And I'm like, I go, did I make you smile? He goes, you did. And I said, then I guess I did my job. If I made you smile. Right? So guys, I send these out every day. And New Britain High School flips the bill. It don't cost me a penny. It don't cost me a penny. Not 1 cent does it cost me. Now, I don't know if your school would be open-minded to something like this, but this is awesome. Kids love this. They come in all the time. Hey, mister, I got that thing in the mail, right? Some of them have it up on their refrigerator, and they keep it there for years, right? It's amazing, because kids don't get mail, and they don't get positive mail, and there it is. And what it does, it forces me to not always look for the bad. Right, I go through, Maria, you didn't put your name in the paper. Johnny, where's your classwork? Frankie, where's your homework? Mikey, where's your book? Right? Guys, doesn't this get old? That gets old, and we just start seeing it everywhere. We see it everywhere. I force myself to look for the good within every class. Because guess what? I got to check somebody's name off today. And preferably more than one kid. So I better find something good. And I can't check off a kid's name I've already checked off. I got to find a kid's name that I haven't checked off yet. And sometimes I'll be like, man, I haven't sent Josue a postcard yet. And it's like November 30th. Right? And I'll be like, I got to freaking watch Jose nonstop. I got to watch him and watch him and watch him. I got to find something on Josue. So you guys, that changes my attitude with Josue. I'm not so mad at him. Right? I'm like I'm watching Josue for like 3 days, watching him. And then finally I'm just like, that's it, I got it. Josue, good job bringing your pencil to school today, right? Something, the littlest thing. Right? But what it does is it changes what I see. You guys know how you go out and you buy those little yellow, like a little yellow Volkswagen Beetle Bug? And you start driving around town and all of a sudden you start seeing a bunch of them? Right? Because what you see now changes. And that's what this does. These postcards, it changes what you see, changes how you feel. And that's a good thing, right? And I do good things every day. That's a good thing. All right, so I've got some postcards up here, and I don't know, hopefully there's enough for everybody, but I'm not sure. But at the end, if you want to grab a few of these or grab one, bring it back to your school district and say, hey, can we do something like this? You know, your district might be open-minded. You know, maybe not. I suppose you could spend your own money. We do it all the time, but I know that's hard to do, to spend your own money on stuff like that because you got postage and it gets expensive. Well, not. But I guess a strategy could be you pick your like 20 roughest, toughest, do nothing, pain in the butt students, and you watch them. And maybe you spend the 35 cents on the postcard or whatever it is for just those 20 students. You just watch them all year long until you I caught him. He freaking raised his hand in class and gave an answer. Finally, I can send him a postcard. And if you just do it for maybe 20 kids instead of 200 kids or 150 kids, maybe it'd be doable, right? So positive postcards, great thing to use. All right, so moving on. Hope I'm not taking, are we done at 7?
We're getting close to it. Well, yeah, people tend to get tired around this time.
All right, cool. Because I got a couple. No, all right. I got a whole bunch of more stuff to say to you guys, and I just realized I'm running out of time. Well, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fast forward here. Use humor whenever you can, right? Be weird, especially in your movements. Like sometimes if I'm trying to get the kids to do an assignment and they're like talking and doing whatever, like sometimes I'll start moving weird. And they're looking at me like, what the heck is our teacher doing? And I'll be like, page 10, that's what we're doing right now. Like that, you know? Because they're doing that. So I act weird. I stand on a chair. I might sit on the desk and start kicking my feet around. This and that. And they're turning like they'll look at me and be like, what is he doing? Sometimes I just go and I'm just like, they're like, what is he doing? Well, guess what? Once they start saying, what is he doing? They stop their chatter and they look over at me. So don't be afraid to be weird. Don't be afraid to use humor, okay? Moving on. So what if these things, and I'm skipping a few things here, but what if these things, like, they just don't work? You built this climate, you built this great atmosphere, you built these relationships, you've been tapping into the emotional energy, and the kids are still messing up, and they're still not listening, and they're still misbehaving, and they're still giving you heartburn. What do you do then? Well, try some more humor, right? Try that. 1, don't argue. Kids have no power. None. 0. And yet we think they do. They have no power. They're kids. They're kids. They have no power except to argue. It's the only thing they can do. That's the only thing they can do is argue with you. They can't do anything else except to argue with you. And if you refuse to engage in an argument, it takes away that power. So they don't have that power either. So don't argue with them. I'm saying, non-emotional, right? I do what's called the broken record technique, right? I'll be like, Dan, you need to open your book to page 10. And he may say, I don't feel like doing it. Dan, you need to open your book to page 10. He's like, I'm not doing it because Billy doesn't have his open or whatever. Dan, you need to open your book to page 10. Dan, you need to open your book to page 10. And after 3, 4, or 5 times, when he's not engaging you in an argument and you're not going veering off saying, well, because of this and that, because you got him. You just keep saying that. It's called the broken record technique. Right? You just keep saying that. Did you open your book to page 10? You don't get emotional. You don't get angry. You don't engage them. And you just keep doing that. Okay? Now, every now and then you get a kid that's hard and they're going to be like, they're going to fight you on this one. And this happened to me, let's say more so in ISS, but I've used it everywhere, and it works. It's very good. I call it the death stare. All right? The death stare is what I use. And I've got a trick that I never lose. I've never lost the death stare. And don't any of you go tell kids the secret, because this is our secret. All right? This is ours. Okay. When you tell a kid, like, I need you to open to page 10, and they're refusing to comply, 90% of the kids are going to comply if you use the broken record technique. But you get that 10%, the hardcore ones, they refuse to supply, to do what you're asking them to do. You just walked up and say, I need to open your book to page 10. And you give them the death stare. And right now, he just blinked, all right? And I didn't. Well, right now, what I'm doing, the death stare is, he thinks I'm looking into his eyes and I'm boring into him, and he's starting to feel that and become a little bit uncomfortable. I'm not doing that at all. You know that little teeny spot right here? That's what I'm boring into that. All right? And if you bore into this little spot, don't even tell the kids the secret. All right? If you bore into that little spot, you're going to get a kid every single time to blink, turn away, look away, become uncomfortable, and he's basically going to give up his power to you. All right? And you don't have to do anything except just stare at that spot. Then you go open your book to page 10. All right? It's page 10 is what you're going to open your book to.
Okay, so that's.
All right? And I've had kids that go, no, don't give me that look. Don't give me the look. Open my book. Right? I've done it. It works. All right? You can know, again, especially those kids, they respect power. I remember when I was a wrestling coach, a few of the troubled kids used to say, I like you because you can still kick my butt. Right? It's like they respect power. So you bore into them with the death stare, and you'd be surprised. The toughest kids will comply. Okay? So now I'm going to fast forward here big time and get to the second adult in the room, which I wanted to hit a little bit more on. Now, one of the things I've thought about this, and I'm going to bring Dan Flores in a few minutes. I'll also talk about this real quick. But I thought about this a lot because now, I've spent time as the second adult in the classroom. And one thing, I've talked to you guys a lot about psychological tricks, but this is a good psychological trick, good leadership trick. Stand up. If you're the second adult in the classroom, don't sit down. If you're sitting down, you're on their level, and you look like a student if you're sitting down. And they think that you're like maybe they're equal, right? And they're probably going to tell you what to do, or at least, backtalk you, right? So now if I'm standing up, I'm taller. So my stature's taller. And it doesn't matter if I'm a paraprofessional or if I'm a student intern, right? Or if I'm the special ed teacher who is the second adult in the classroom. If I'm standing up, I'm taller. So it's giving me power over the kids. I'm like, dude, I need you to do page 10, all right? And they don't look at you the same when you're standing up. So you need to be standing up, right? You need to be circulating the class. Don't work with just your kid or your kids. Don't work with 2 or 3 kids. Yeah, maybe spend a little time with them, but you need to be circulating the room, working with all the kids, and standing up and being taller and being the leader and the authority in the room, okay? And you need to be a little more assertive with the teacher in the room and the students in the room. You need to act as if. You need to fake it if you have to. Fake it till you make it, right? Be assertive, be brave, be bold, right? The bold people get the good things in this world. So you need to be one of those people. And I know it's not easily done, but once you get there, guess what? The other teacher in the classroom teacher, is going to probably look at you different too. And then you go back and forth. You volley. You jump in on storytelling. You jump in with questions. You jump in with little points. And you act like you're the teacher in the classroom. And I don't care if you're an 21-year-old intern or a 22-year-old para. You act like you're the teacher in the classroom. And you go back and forth. And maybe you crack jokes and use a little bit of humor. And you do all those things. And then you meet with the teacher. You say, what are we doing tomorrow? I want to be part of it. I want to be prepared. I want to be able to talk about it. And then you constantly ask questions in class because guess what? There's probably 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 students have the same question. They're not going to ask it. You ask it. You ask questions, you start volleying, start going back and forth with the teacher. And now the kids are seeing, at least psychologically, they're thinking that there's 2 adults in that classroom. 2, you know what I'm saying? There's 2 teachers in that classroom, 2 educators in that classroom. And I'm just giving you a real quick version of this, and I wish I had time to go into it in more detail. But you need to get up. You need to get up and you need to assert yourself. The kids will look at you differently, and the teacher will look at you differently. Now, Dan Flores is a paraprofessional in my school, and when we were talking about this, he was like, I'm reading a book for grad school or whatever it was school. I'm reading a book because I'll zip you over some information on that. So just real quick, I just want to share that on you because there was actually a book written about this. And the title of the book that Dan shared with me was called Para-Educators in School, Strengthening the Educational Team. And Dan shared with me chapter 2, which was called Teamwork, Collaboration, and Problem Solving. And there was 4 main things that he shared with me. And the first was team success. The next was effective team performance, trust, and effective teamwork. So when I was looking at that, I'm like, yeah, that stuff makes sense, but what does it mean? And again, we were hoping to have this discussion with you guys, but I'm just going to go fast forward on that. When me and Dan talked about team success, you know, one of the big things was communication, right? So, can you stay after class for like 2 minutes? Can you show up before class? Can you stay after school for 2 minutes? And just have that communication going back and forth between the teacher and the second educator, second adult in the classroom. Another was, the second one was effective team performance, where we talked about the free flow of ideas is what we had talked about. So what does that mean? As the teacher, you cannot put the second adult in that classroom down and make them feel like they need to kind of stay up the radar themselves. They have to feel like they're an equal. The teacher needs to do that. And if the teacher's not doing that, then as adults, we need to make them do that. We need to stand up and assert ourselves. All right? Trust. So when we talked about trust, we talked about basically like achieving the goals. Let's get on the same page and let's get these kids going. Let's trust each other that, you know, if Dan jumps in on my conversation when I'm talking about the revolution, that I have to trust that whatever Dan's going to say matters, right? And he's got to trust me too that I'm going to include him, all right? And then the other thing that Dan talked about was effective teamwork. And effective teamwork, I mean, this, basically the big thing about this is this commitment. Guess what happens if you show up after school? It shows commitment. And say, I want to know what we're doing tomorrow. Right? That shows commitment. And hopefully the teacher has the same commitment back to you. All right, so just in the last minute, is there anybody that has any questions about something that's maybe happened in their classroom that's driven them crazy and they weren't quite sure how to handle it or what to do about that? I know there's too many of them, right? Too many of them.
I don't have that, but can I just throw a commentary on something you just said?
Yes.
This idea about the respect that professionals in a room have to show each other. We always talk about how adults are models for children, right? Children pay attention to how the adults in the room interact with each other. And my son, as a special needs third grader, will size you up in about 30 seconds and determine just how far he can push his para, right? So how the teacher treats the para, my son takes cues from. And he has some idea about who he thinks he can get things over, who's too nice, who's a pushover, right? Kids are really smart and incredibly observant.
So you got to demand that respect, not just from the students, but from the adults. Right? Yes.
I teach high school. If a person's having a meltdown and screaming and...
Like a student?
Yes. And I need to keep my learning atmosphere and they won't leave. Do you have any tricks?
So this student is acting up, having a meltdown. You're trying to get them out of the classroom. They won't go. Do they have any disabilities that... No, they're just a regular kid, right? And they're acting up? Well, that's a good question. Before I say something, let me just open up the floor. What would you guys do? You got any suggestions?
I happen to do this all day, every day, because I remember the bigger program. Just a question, are you the classroom teacher or are you the para? Do you have any support in the room? Like, do you have a para in the room? I'm in a unique situation because I am the para that's working with the kid in the behavior program. But oftentimes, once you have the relationship with him, you know how he's gonna react. I'll just leave. I'll walk out. And I'll walk around the corner so he can't see me anymore. And now he doesn't have me. So he comes looking for me. So now I've removed him from the room and the teacher can continue. And then I can deal with the people outside of the room and go to our second location or the installation space or something like that.
But you're leaving an adult in the room.
Right.
Yes.
So that's my
Yes.
Well,
question.
you have a second adult in the room?
I can't do that.
Well,
I have a suggestion. Does this behavior happen often, or is it just like a once an occurrence? Is it really
It's not
happen?
often, and it's usually the first month or so when I haven't trained them all yet.
The best sort of advice I can give you is that if you know your students well, regardless of what grade level it is, the more knowledge you know, not only like in academics, but in terms of developing that relationship, then therefore you can identify triggers, what type of triggers that could have led them to that. And if you know the triggers, then you can prevent it, whether it's the classroom environment, whether somebody's egging them on before school, after school, or during classroom time. Another way too is that you can try to calm them down by acknowledging, okay, I understand that you're having an issue. I get that. I'm here for you. what can I do for being calm, but also being assertive with them as well, so that way they're not causing harm to themselves, as well to the other students around them, as well with your school property and stuff. And so that way you're always in control, regardless if they're agitated or not.
And I know I've told you guys to study a lot of things tonight, but Jay, if you could study and learn a little bit about mindfulness, yoga, breathing, meditation, sometimes you can just get them to breathe. It will calm them down, and you can work with them.
If they're not in this trance tantrum.
Okay, quick story. I know I'm kind of going way over. I had a girl many years ago came to me, and she was crying that her boyfriend broke up with her, and I was just sitting there drinking my water. And you probably don't want to do this, right? But I was sitting there just drinking my water, and she's telling me, crying about her boyfriend. And I remember I poured a little water in her foot. And she went like, did you just pour water in my foot? And I said, no, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't pour water in your foot. And she wasn't crying. And then a couple of minutes go by, whatever, third, she's crying again about a boyfriend, blah, blah, blah. And I'm listening, I'm going, yeah, that's right, yeah. And then I just like that, and she went, did you just put water on my foot again? I go, no, I wouldn't do that, right? And she's just like, what's going on here? And guess what I did? Psychologically, I took her out of that pattern of behavior twice, and the second time she stayed out of it. And she didn't cry again. And she's like, why did you do that? And I said, you want to know the truth? I tried to break your psychological pattern, right? It's kind of like when I used to change my kids' diapers. And I used to go, "Whoa," like funny, like that. And they'd look at me, they'd stop crying. And they'd be like, what is he doing? I'm like, oh, good, then I can change your diaper. So you can do these really weird things that changes their psychological pattern, breaks it. Break their psychological pattern, and then they're going to be like, what happened? What just happened? And they're going to be like looking around, and now you could talk to them because they're not crying and screaming and whatever else. You may not want to pour water on their foot. I think I got away with that because it was a long time ago.
Work in a integrated preschool, and so a lot of these kids do not have the skill sets. And so we had behaviors of clearing tables and stuff, and so worked with the behaviors, and it's like, okay, to break that cycle, tap your head, touch your nose, look at me, do this, give them short tasks that they can do, and they concentrate on the task and it breaks the cycle.
It works. It definitely does work. Yes?
I think, I have a long journey into education, and I had gotten certified to teach high school English, and I went and watched an excellent teacher, had excellent classroom control, and I watched him, and I'm thinking about this, and really, I couldn't do it because it's not me. I think the first priority is you have to be yourself in the classroom. Mm-hmm. You can't, I'm introverted, you're extroverted. So I'm not going to do the same things that you do in the classroom. I'm a paraeducator right now, but I don't let what the teacher's doing control my overall mission. Okay, I'm in the class. I'm in education. I just want to make you great. So even when I'm looking at you right now, that's my feeling. Maybe I have something to offer you. Everybody in this room, that's my feeling towards you. When I'm in the classroom with students, no matter who the student is, that's my ultimate goal, my ultimate philosophy. That's what I'm doing in the classroom. I'm just trying to figure it out as I go along.
Yeah.
In my journey, I've had probably X to the 10th power number of failures in my life. And I wouldn't give up any one of them, because eventually they lead to success.
Yep.
That means I'm a risk taker. I just keep on trying. If something doesn't work one time, I'm going to change it. Sometimes I'll get weird like you.
Yeah.
I just, I have a sarcastic tongue, all right? But my sarcasm builds people up. I'm walking down to school, and two students are next to the locker, and they're arguing who's the blacker one. And so I just say, well, I'm the blacker one, that's obvious, and walk away. Okay, totally off the, students expect that of me. They don't expect me to be gregarious in the classroom. They don't really expect me to be outgoing. Spontaneous things pop into my, that's my nature.
That's
I
you being
can't
authentic.
be you.
Yeah,
Right.
and I agree with
And-
you. We all got to be authentic.
You know,
To who
and
we
so
are.
I couldn't set up the classroom if I was teaching a classroom like you set up the classroom.
Yep, I hear you.
You know, and so that's like, I'm thinking globally, and on the stuff you presented, it's like, you talk about emotion, I just talk about passion. Because I'm passionate for the students because I have that goal in their mind, I want to make you great, okay? And I don't know how it's going to work out. I'm just going to try every single way, possibly in my mind, when I'm in your presence, for that goal. And so there's 20 students in the classroom. So to me, your emotion, me passion,
Yep.
okay? And stuff like that.
So you know what? If we could talk about this a little bit more after, because I know it's getting late, but I think what you said is important. You need to be authentic to who you are. So that's why when I said, if you could look at the bigger picture, you could just tweak things to fit your unique personality, your unique situation in the class. Just think big about the things I talked about. Maybe some of the smaller things I talked about you could use. Maybe you could tweak a few, or maybe you just come up with your own stuff. All right, but just remember, build those relationships, right? So I was hoping that we could do this for a whole lot longer, but I know it's getting late, so we're gonna stop here. What I do want to show you is, if you want, I've got some candies here. I've got candies here. I've got some over here. I got the blessings, the class creed, if you want to take one. I've got postcards, piles of postcards, if you want to take one back. I've got my business card. If you want to grab a business card and email me. And I got this, Success for Teens. This is a pretty cool book, pretty interesting book for teens. And any teacher can get this for free. The Success Magazine, they have like a grant or whatever it is, and any teacher can just say, send me 100 of them. And you can get them for free as long as you're a teacher. And they're high interest stuff for teens. So I've got you, take one if you want to take one. There's a bunch of them. I believe I have enough for everybody. And if you want to take a peek at one of my books, I've got multiple books, a few more coming out. But if you want to take a peek at it here, I didn't bring a bunch to give away. I don't quite have the deep pockets that these guys have. Why not? But take these, and you can just look at that. And like I said, it's getting late, so I'm just going to wrap up here. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you,
And
John.
email me a question to the album.